Ladies and gentlemen, it's my great pleasure to welcome and introduce Dr. Sophie Ioannou-Georgiou. She's from Cyprus. As you'll have seen on the program, she has a very impressive CV and has a lot of experience in teaching, teacher training, and she's been involved in implementing CLIL in Cyprus primary schools. Well, I don't know about you, but CLIL, I think I know what it is, but I don't know what the letters stand for. Okay, so hopefully you're going to tell us this. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. Sophie Ioannou-Georgiou.
Thank you. But I really don't know how I can manage to top the previous act, though, unless I do a dance routine, like maybe. Anyway, so okay, I'm going to talk about CLIL. CLIL is, I think, one of the main developments that the language teaching and language learning world has seen in the last decades. I mean, it's been around earlier. It's been around a while. It's been around for a while, but in the last decade, it's seen this rapid growth and widespread adoption in Europe and worldwide. So it's interesting, yeah. But let's see. So, okay, what is CLIL? I don't know. Does anybody know what the acronym stands for? I'm sure, Michael, people do. So somebody knows what it stands for? Yes. Yeah, see, Michael? So now you know, right? So it's content and language integrated learning. So there are different terms going round, but they have slightly different meanings. So sometimes people use different terms, but each term has different meaning. In particular, content and language integrated learning basically means that it's a dual focus learning and teaching. So when you teach, if you're as a teacher, we're planning your lesson or your program, you'd have to have two sets of learning objectives. So one would be your objectives as regards content, and then you'd have a set of objectives as regards language. So it's dual focus, and that's the key. One of the most popular definitions is this one from a long time ago from David Marsh, and it says, again, CLIL refers to situations where subjects, meaning school subjects or parts of subjects, again, are taught through a foreign language with dual-focused aims, namely, again, the learning of content and simultaneous learning of a foreign language. It has a strong theoretical background. It builds on a strong theoretical background. In fact, Gradle has called it the ultimate communicative methodology, and it's seen as a development of communicative methodology. In fact, all of us, most of us are trying to implement communicative language teaching in our classes, but sometimes it's difficult, so you have to create an authentic and meaningful situation. But in reality, we are in a language classroom, and we have very often we have to pretend that we are writing a complaint to the newspaper, or pretend that you're inviting your friend to a party. So we're trying hard to create these authentic, meaningful situations. But through CLIL, you actually have an authentic, meaningful situation right there, where all the students and the teacher and everyone is engaging with the content, really are working together to get to know something, and they're communicating about something real. So you don't have to, sort of be rehearsing in the language classroom for an opportunity that you will have in the future to actually use the language. So you get to use the language as you're learning it, and the students see the usefulness and feel confident that they're actually using the language, and they see that. It's also got principles from task-based learning. So in task-based learning, we have to work on tasks, and you do that all the time. For example, the students might be working on creating a map in geography or doing an experiment in science. So you have a real task where the students are focused on the task. Language is used as means to carry out the task, and any vocabulary or other learning that happens is incidental. as the principles of task-based learning would say. So it's got a strong theoretical background. It's appealing as a, the theoretical background to us as teachers. It's appealing, and therefore people think, oh, this is a good idea and we could use it. But its widespread adoption, it's not only, and its popularity of CLIL, it's not only because of this theoretical background, it's also because of strong support by the European Union, who have been funding it and promoting it in all the language policy documents that there are. They're always focusing on CLIL, and they see it as an innovative approach that can perhaps help the European Union to promote its goals, which is mother tongue plus at least 2 foreign languages for each citizen, to promote social cohesion, enhance mobility, and to basically to promote, to get where it wants to be, which is an economic power, be competitive, economically, and that's the final goal if we want to be, pragmatic and realistic. But it does see it as a powerful tool and promotes it. Okay, now this widespread adoption has resulted in, different people, different places, all trying to use CLIL in different ways. And in trying to sort of bring everything together, CLIL has now been argued to be, it's an umbrella term, and trying to bring all these different models that are being implemented around the world, different types, different models. But, having an umbrella term also, includes some dangers in that, how wide and how big is this umbrella? And how didn't, it also is a little bit confusing, an umbrella term. I mean, it creates problems in communication. So I could, for example, be sitting here talking about CLIL, and I could be talking to you about CLIL, and you be talking about CLIL, and we'll all be talking together. And then we find out that we really are not talking about the same thing, because you have a completely different model in mind than me, and you're doing it a completely different way, and we all think it's CLIL, and everybody's doing something different. So, there are certain dangers there. There are, so let's have a look at some of the models that are around. So this is one of the continuum that is, I shown. I used to show the differences in CLIL. So you see on one end, focus is on content, what they call hard CLIL. Now, focus is on content. It means that when you're teaching science, so you are focusing on science, your interest is for the children to learn science, and you will assess science. But what about the dual focus that we were talking about? Now, on the other end of the continuum, we have what we call soft CLIL. And if you see there, the main focus is on language. So you're teaching language, but you're using something because you need something to talk about in a language classroom. So you talk about, I don't know, the planets or volcanoes, and you do activities on volcanoes and everything. But in the end, when you are going to assess, I mean, what's really your objective? And when you're going to assess the students, are you going to assess them whether they learned all about volcanoes? No, you're going to assess them on language. So is that CLIL? Is that real dual focus? Because that might be, content-based learning, which is really good, very useful, a very good approach, been used for a while, and it should be, it's very good, but do we call it CLIL? Why not call it content-based? Because that's what it is and it's always been. So that's a question. So different continuums have been used by different people, but you all see, so here we have, for example, on that end, language-oriented CLIL model. It says language-oriented. And if you look underneath, it says language classes, the example they give, language classes. Well, if it's a language class, then is it CLIL? It's another question. And then again, this is another continuum by another author. So again, you see on one end, focus on content, that's an immersion. So focus on language. And this author says, surface cross-curricular linking. But if it's surface linking, and what we use in the modern foreign languages, surface linking, does that really give the in-depth connection and engagement we want with the content where, all these principles about learning that CLIL implies, will they be implemented? So if you go back and see, then where is CLIL? Perhaps CLIL should be somewhere in the middle of the continuum, because you have to have a dual focus, right? So you have to have dual focus, so it has to be somewhere in the middle. This author uses somewhere in the middle. They give examples of subject courses taught in a foreign language, or CLIL showers, which we'll see what they are. this also gives two examples where we're moving, and I would argue for integrating language and new content. Because the other one, like, says, you know, integrating language and recycling, working again on content, and that means that you actually, and some people use it, actually like teach science in the mother tongue, and then they do the same topic again in English. But is that really motivating for the students and to do the same thing again? And is that really engaging with new content? So we have to have these things in mind. I think it's time. To focus again and review what's going on in CLIL right now, because unfortunately I think it's like a victim, perhaps, I think, of his own success. I feel that unfortunately, everybody wants to feel they're in or they're up to date, and it's like the new fashion. So everybody has to write on their course books that they're CLIL, they use CLIL, or in the teacher training that they do CLIL, or they're in language institutes that do CLIL. And I thought that as a language learning and teaching field, I thought we were, we sort of matured and that we sort of grown and we were beyond the methods area. We were post-methods, right? So, and somehow, I think, unfortunately, I get a feeling that, like, everybody's jumping on a bandwagon again, whether it's a good wagon or not. And it doesn't have to be like that. One approach doesn't have to fit everyone. It doesn't have to cater to everyone. Something good might work somewhere, might not work somewhere else. And yes, we can take like good aspects of the philosophy or the idea, and we can implement those good aspects. So we could say perhaps we are doing a CLIL-oriented. We're using CLIL-oriented approach, or we're doing CLIL-like activity, or we're doing like, but does it have to be that? Does one approach have to fit everyone? So I think we have to focus back on the basics. And yes, it's the fact that it's flexible, it's an approach, and that's a good thing. And everybody can, focus and change it according to their context. But I think there has to be some core characteristics that we have to adhere by if we want to call it that. Because otherwise, then it's like everything is anything. And it's like too watered down, and perhaps the characteristics and the background, the theoretical we talked about, that made it so popular will disappear if, everything is CLIL. And so I was thinking we have to go back and think like what's driving CLIL forward. And we have to go back to the core basics of it. And I think that, who's pushing it? And I think we have to go back, and it's content-driven. That's how it started. My opinion is it's content-driven, and that focus has to remain on content. And that's what made it so appealing in the first place, that we focus on the content. And then our methodology and our approach and the communication that takes place is because of that was so appealing in the first place. So basically, a dual-focused approach, we have to have a balance, as we talked about, between content and language. And during a program, sometimes focus might, shift, or balance might tip from one end to the other. But as a whole, it has to be a balance between content and language. And of course, because it is content-driven, the language that we actually teach or develop in a CLIL course has to be defined, has to be predetermined by the actual content, by the subject. So if you are teaching science, then you have to think, what is the language that the students need in order to be able to participate actively in a science lesson, to engage appropriately, not superficially, with their content. And then that is what decides what language is going to be taught. So there have been, again, because when something is in a spotlight like that, there has been debate about it. There has been debate, and debate is good. It makes, improves things. Some questions were very, very rightly asked, and one of the questions that's been asked is it effective? And so we've asked the question, is it effective as regards foreign language development? And the answer is yes. There have been many studies that showed that students who participate in the CLIL program have better actually, not the same, but better results in their language development than students who participate in regular, if you want, language learning program. Now, that's, of course, I'm not saying that this is, a grand thing, because basically if you think about it, and that's where I think it's important to be aware, that most of these CLIL programs that have been reviewed and investigated, they actually run parallel to the more regular language classes. And I think that's the way it should be. So, our colleagues, for example, who are language teachers, and doing just that, they shouldn't feel threatened, because it really works. This is the best way. My personal opinion, but also others agree with me, that you have to have the parallel language classes as well as the CLIL program. So CLIL classes should be parallel to language classes. And then if you think about it then it's kind of expected, isn't it? I would, be assessing, evaluating, if you want, foreign language development. But actually, the children, the students in a CLIL program actually have more exposure to the foreign language, because they have more contact time, yeah? So they spend more time, they have more input. So of course, you'd think, yeah, of course, they improve more. But there's also the question of how about content learning? Is it effective when it comes to content learning? And the answer is yes. But I have to say that it's kind of difficult to bring all the research here together. We have research that shows that yes, the children who study in CLIL-based programs, they have the same results in content as children who study the same school subject in their mother tongue. And sometimes they even get better results. But the thing is that we need more research in this area, because we have a problem in that there are lots of different CLIL programs, and in different countries. That means they have different curricula, and some people, programs, they teach different subjects. So you have all this research, but because of different models, different contact hours, different subjects, different curricula, you can't sort of pool all the research together and do a compilation of research and a meta-analysis of the results and have this strong, definite yes. So, we need more research in this area, which is difficult because of the reasons I explained. So there's also been more debate on issues mostly of implementation. So, there's debate like who teaches CLIL? Is it the content teacher? Is it the language teacher? Who participates in CLIL? Is this elitist? Can students opt out? Or is it compulsory? Or should it be optional? Will they have to sit exams or have already competence in the language? How is CLIL taught? And is the methodology actually used? The one that CLIL proponents, argue that is so wonderful and so beneficial. So there's all these issues going on. But I think that some things are now very, very clear, and it's definitely that if the teachers who will teach CLIL, they need to have training in language learning methodology, training in the content subject and in the methodology of that particular subject. And they, of course, have to have competence in the foreign language they're using. It's not an easy thing to find this perfect, ideal CLIL teacher. But that's the way it has to be if you want to do it effectively, because you need to bring these three together. And hopefully, with CLIL being becoming more popular, hopefully universities will respond, and they can perhaps address this by preparing future teachers through dual focus programs. When you get the teacher that can teach science, but also has foreign language teaching methodology knowledge. So hopefully this will be an issue addressed in the future. Now, I think we're going to talk about, perhaps it's interesting to see a model or an approach or how it was implemented, and I thought perhaps you're interested to see in the CLIL program in Cyprus. It started in 2006 as a pilot program, and it was because there was a need. I mean, everything comes because there's a reason, and if you see a need for change, and there was a need for change because there had been no changes for a while in the Cyprus educational system, especially in primary. There was need to improve effectiveness of the language program. There was need to include intercultural aspects. There was need to improve the quality of the language used. So to extend the contact time. So that was the reason that brought about the decision to work with CLIL. Now, how was it implemented? Now, that's something I think with care. It's very, I mean, if you look at this, and this is going to quickly take all the steps that we did, like in the first 2 years with the teachers. You don't have to read them, but I'd like you to see the focus of how much training was involved. So when we put all this in Wordle, we get to see what's important. And you see how much the focus was on training, the teachers, and how many hours we spent in it. But we spent a lot of hours on it, and the teachers did too. But, you know, in the end, there's only so much you can do to prepare, you know, there's only so much. In the end, it's down to the teachers. If it works or doesn't work, it's down to the teacher. And, you know, they're at the front line, and they need all the support they can get. And hats off to all the teachers in Cyprus who are really giving it their best to make this work. Because it's not very easy, especially if you're just starting and there's nobody around that, you know, has had experience in the past or is there to help you. Being a pioneer is always a difficult thing. But, I mean, how do we go about it with care is something that we're still doing in Cyprus. So, for example, now, with the new education, the education reform that's being implemented in Cyprus as of last September and all the changes, it's part of the curriculum now that, you know, teachers teach a school subject. We'll see the models in a minute, like through CLIL. But what we've done is that we're actually holding teachers back because teachers are coming in and they want to do it because they've heard about it, they've seen it, they know about it. And we're actually telling teachers not to do it because we're telling teachers not to do it just yet because we believe that they have to do training first. So only teachers that have had training in CLIL pedagogy, in CLIL methodology, in the CLIL approach, the teachers that, you know, training that helps them understand the concept and the philosophy behind it. Only those teachers can actually go and do CLIL and say, yes, it's in the curriculum, but there's no pressure for, you know, for everyone to do it now, because although it could look easy, if you go and see someone doing it, and say, oh, yeah, I can do that. Like, so behind that, you know, there's so much effort and work goes into it. So what we want, instead of people rushing into it, or instead of coming up with the decisions, is, okay, everybody as of September has to do CLIL in this and this subject. We said, you know, let's go slowly, yeah? Slowly, small but successful steps. So let's have a look at the models. We experimented with models at the beginning, with different models of CLIL. But, you know, it depends, again, what your goals are. And if your goals are more than awareness of the different languages, or, you know, linguistic awareness, or intercultural awareness, and if you really want to have results in language learning, then you need to do something that's systematic and organized and planned. So we went with two models. One model is to have CLIL showers, called showers because they're very short, brief periods of contact with the language. So they start, for example, at the beginning of the year with maybe 10 minutes 2 or 3 times a week, and then this expands to, you know, 30 minutes or 35 minutes 2 or 3 times a week or more. And this, we've used this mostly with pre-primary, because it's easy with pre-primary because their timetable is not compartmentalized like in primary or secondary. So they deal with a topic or a theme during a week or a fortnight. They have a whole theme, and everything's organized around that theme or topic. So, while they're working on that theme, they will do their sessions of, 10, 20, 30 minutes as it increases. But, for example, if they were dealing with seasons, when it's time they do those 20 minutes with activities working on the seasons, but in English. So it's like integrated into their program. And we've also used the showers as a way in primary to get the students started into a language program. Because you don't start one day and go in and do a whole lesson in English, if it's a geography lesson or, an art lesson in English. So we use it in primary as an introductory, an introductory approach for the first month or so. So in primary, we chose to have one school subject in the timetable that the teacher selects to teach through CLIL, parallel to the language classes. So if, for example, a student has their English classes every week, then the teacher chooses a particular school subject that throughout the year is taught through CLIL. So we worked with very different subjects, and we're adding new ones. And we've also had this implemented in pre-primary, where there were specialist teachers who had a special interest in a particular subject. So we've also used physical education and music as a CLIL subject in pre-primary as well. To give you an example of how it would look like in a pre-primary program, you see that here how language comes from the different topics they deal with. So, for example, if they deal with road safety, they do traffic lights and they can learn the colors. And then they do activities where, there's a police officer or, they have to learn how to cross the road. So they learn instructions like stop, listen, look left, look right. Or when they're doing maths, they learn concepts such as up, down, small, big. And and I want to answer a question that might be in your minds, because based on my experience, I've had this question before, that people have observed our CLIL classes in pre-primary, and they said, well, that's not CLIL, that's English. No, but that you have to get into early years development, into pre-primary, because it seems like, that's English, up, down, small, big. No, because in pre-primary, they're not just learning that vocabulary in English. They're actually learning the concept. So they're learning up, down, small, big. So they're actually learning that concept. So anyway, maybe perhaps to help give you a slightly better idea, I've got some examples to show you some ideas of the classes to see if this is going to work. So we can. This is first from pre-primary education, some examples.
Miss Paulina is only who was six. Every time I do that clean. Every dog playing with his hands, and he knocked on the door. He looked at the dolly and he shook his head, and he said, Miss Polly put her spade to bed. He wrote on a paper for a hill. I'll be back in the morning if the baby's still okay, thank you. You too. Flower. And now I want you all to run to a rainbow. Run to a rainbow. Okay, let me hear the word. Let me
I want you to jump with both legs and go to the sun. No, both legs. 2 legs. To the sun. Sun, the sun. Go to the sun. Hey. Hello.
Some examples from primary. I think the first example is design and technology with younger ones, where they're making a...
Excellent. Okay, now. Apples, bananas, oranges, pears. Apples, bananas, oranges, pears. Apples, bananas, oranges, pears. We like fruit. Okay.
Examples from geography. It's with the older students.
So France is in the west. Hands up. Middle. West. It's in the west of Europe. Very good. Located in the west. This is what is red, white, red, white, and blue are the 3 colors of blue, the flag of France. France is bordered by the borders of France. Do you remember the countries that are next to France? Yes. Do you remember the countries? Switzerland, Belgium, Monaco, yes, very good. Okay, thank you very much. Germany, Italy, Spain, and Spain. Okay.
When we talk about the landscape, who wants to tell me what's the brown color? What does it mean? The brown color. Yes, Maria?
Mountain.
Very good. The brown is for mountains. What about the green? Ioanna.
Plains.
Very good, the plains. And the blue color? Anna.
The blue color is
Means the sea, yes. What else? Yes.
and the river.
And the rivers and Ioanna.
Lake.
The lakes, very good. Okay. Look in your atlas and tell me, show me the mountains. And I also need a student to come here. Come here and show me on the wall map.
This is from home economics. I don't know if you have a similar subject. Now it's changed with a reform. Now it's called life skills and involves much more.
Show me, from all these that I show in front of you, what can we use to make a pizza?
This is
Okay, what else? What else do we need to make a pizza? Bread.
pizza and cheese.
Okay. What else? Cheese. Yes. Tomatoes. Cheese. Okay. Fine. Okay, is that all? Do you think we need anything else from these pictures? Okay. I'm going to take this away. Let's see, what do we need to make a pizza? Yeah, what's that?
Bread.
Bread. What's next? What's that? Olive oil. Olive. Please take a piece of bread. Okay, thank you. Quickly. So you have your bread already split in two. What's next? Read the second instruction.
Put the bread on the baking
Paper. You have already done that, and since it's the baking paper, you have already put the bread on the baking paper. Let's go to 3. Who's going to read out for me 3? Third instruction, all with us.
Make the pizza sauce in the bowl.
Very good.
Mix together the oregano, the onion, and the tomato paste, and the olive oil.
Okay, so
Okay, maybe it's enough for now. It was just to give you an idea, because I think it's different to see some experts than just to hear me talking about it. So anyway, I thought it'd be interesting for you perhaps to see what our stakeholders say, and I trimmed some of the more basic, findings of our research to give you an insight into that. Looked into what teachers and parents and students said. So this was like the teachers, like before they got involved in CLIL, that they thought that it would be beneficial for them, because some liked to work with English, some thought it'd be good for their professional development. That was a really important point for them. They thought that they'd learn something new, challenge themselves a little. They wanted to do that. They believed that there were benefits for the students in being involved in CLIL. Interestingly, all the benefits they mention are all language related. So they thought that, at CLIL, obviously they saw it as a language learning approach. They did expect challenges. Interestingly, again, they expected they were concerned a little if students were going to cope. If they were going to cope in teaching the subject in another language. But you see that it's really most of their concerns centered around what the reactions will be, because it was something new. So what will the other teachers say? What will the parents say? What will the students say? So they all had these other concerns. What will everybody else say? Because it was something so different. At the end, not at the end, because they're all continuing to be involved in CLIL. We haven't lost any teachers. So what happens is that they did say yes, it was a challenge, and yes, it was time-consuming, but they all found it a very positive experience, and they all found that yes, they did develop professionally, and they said that it helped them develop their initiative and their creativity, and they felt like they owned the process, and it sort of gave them a job, increased their job satisfaction. They all said that also the feedback they were getting from the students motivated them and helped them, helped them on. Some of the quotes here, you see the first teacher says that there were so difficulties, no materials ready, where to begin, what to do. But in the end, she says, I really enjoyed and I would like to continue, despite of the problems that she had. The second one, if we look at what we said, increased job satisfaction, you'll notice that she says, I find positive feedback from children and parents highly motivating. The results are very rewarding. So see, they're actually, feeling good about what they're doing. When we asked the parents before their children got involved in the program, we asked them if they would like their children to be involved in the program. Most said yes. Some said, well, we don't know yet enough about this. And some said no, and the reasons were like, oh, it's going to interfere with the mother tongue, or, it's going to be easier in the mother tongue. This is going to be difficult for them. They all thought that there would be benefits for their children learning in CLIL. A lot of them, you see, 50% saw the benefits in language learning. But it's interesting that they saw benefits at 24%, like in the children's personal development, in the development of the intercultural awareness. It sort of widened their horizons, about the world. And so, some mentioned practical benefits about career and otherwise. The parents felt there'd be problems, or maybe they said yes, but they were aware there might be challenges for their children. And all of the parents had their concerns were, how would their children be doing? Would they fail? Would they get the same results as they would if they were doing it in the mother tongue? Would they be having difficulties? Would they, as parents, be able to help them if they had difficulties? At the end, the evaluation of the parents was very, very positive. If you look at the last two comments, it says, it made boring subjects interesting for the children. I know which subjects they thought boring. Hassan, he showed an interest in geography, whereas before he just didn't care. So it suddenly became a different, more interesting, challenging subject for the children. Also, we did post-evaluation. For the younger children, these are the specific results, so questionnaires. The blue is the yes and the red is the no. If you notice that, all the parents said that it had positive outcomes. The programs had positive outcomes for the children. All the parents said that the children benefited, and all the parents said that the children should continue. No parent said that the children faced particular problems. We did a delayed post-evaluation. That was like a year after, they left the program, because they either, went to another school, or they went to secondary school. We found that, again, all the parents said that it was a positive experience for the children. Some parents said that the children didn't benefit, and then they expanded, and they wanted them to have more contact. They thought it should be a stronger CLIL aspect, that there should be more hours in the foreign language. And then only 6 parents said that they didn't want their children to continue, and then those parents said because they weren't sure that the child was going to secondary school, and they weren't sure how the child would cope in secondary. And the students, we asked younger students, and we did that through interviews because they were little, and the older students, we gave them questionnaires. It was interesting again for the little ones, because we asked them if it was good to learn foreign languages, and we were very surprised to find 22% said no. It's like, of course, how can anyone not want to learn foreign language? That's our thinking. But of course, kids says no. It was interesting that after 1 year's involvement in the CLIL program, we asked the same children again, and only 4.5 children said no. So we gained a lot of children, became interested in, yes, let's learn foreign languages, is good. We asked them if they wanted, at that point in time, they didn't have foreign languages in their school. And we asked them before they started if they wanted to. And of course, 21% said no. But after the program, only 5% said no. So we won over, a large number of students here said, yes, we want foreign languages in the school. Before the little ones started, we asked them if they thought they'd have difficulties. And, of course, it's the children, 64% said, no, of course not. Yeah. But it's interesting, you see the maturity and the awareness that they came about with participation in the program. They realized, it's not so easy, doing foreign language. So we had 38% said no, they didn't have a problem, but 23% said yes, they had difficulties, and 39% yes, it was a little difficult. But then we asked them, so we had a little difficult, yes, 23% was difficult, and then we asked them if they enjoyed the experience. We asked them if they liked the lessons they did through English. Do you know what the answer was? Despite the fact that, that percentage said, yes, it was difficult. It was a little difficult. They all said they enjoyed it. They all said it was fun and they liked it. And we asked them if they would like to continue their program. 95% yes. They have no choice now. But yes, it was good, 95%. So the older children, that's slightly different, as you have to remember that the older children had already certain way of thinking about school. It's easier with younger children because they come into school and they don't know how it's supposed to work. That's how it works. That's what they learn. But the older ones, they've been in the school for 5 years and they know how it works. And why are we going to do a subject in English? That was a big change for them. Plus, it's more challenging and more demanding. And some of the school subjects that they were doing in English, they were used to, not being very challenged. So we asked them if they thought they had difficulties before starting, if they had difficulties if the lessons were in English, and 30% said no, but 15% I don't know, 15% didn't reply, only 50% said yes, they'd have difficulties. Afterwards, we had, do you think you had difficulties? Only 33% said yes, they had difficulties. When we asked them whether they coped with those difficulties and whether they found ways around those difficulties and if and how the teacher helped them, we found that did they cope with the difficulties? That 11% said that they didn't manage to cope with the difficulties. And we're looking into the reasons and how we can help these children and why it happened and what can be done to help them. That's an area we're looking into. But we asked them if they enjoyed the experience. 89% said yes. And if they would like to continue, perhaps here, these two boys.
Hello everyone. I like home economics with CLIL.
Can you hear it? Can you go up? Is it? Yeah?
Because we speak English, we play games, and we cook. There's a lot of fun.
Okay, can you give me one word for CLIL?
Interesting.
Thank you. Harito, how do you feel about CLIL?
I'm very happy when I have home economics in English. With CLIL we do many things. Projects, we learn recipes from all over the world. I wouldn't mind having the home economics in French.
Thank you. Can you give me one word for CLIL?
Exciting.
Thank you.
It's interesting that the boys. Okay, so you see, now we learned English, we can do it in French. That's something we get a lot from children. They think that's okay. It's easy to, especially the younger ones. After the first few lessons, say, "Oh, okay, now we've learned English. We do some French now," which is is good because it shows positive attitudes towards languages. We asked the older children if they'd like to continue learning through CLIL. Okay, we had the percentages of the no was smaller in the second year. We're having another round of data this year, but it's more difficult with the older children. But now we're seeing a difference now, because if a CLIL program is around in a school, It's sort of, and then it becomes not an issue. So it's sort of part of the school now. So it's like the ethos and the culture of the school is there. So even if it's a late CLIL program and they're starting in year 5, they sort of expect it now because they see it in the school and they see the older children and they identify the CLIL teachers and they know it's there. So we're seeing an improvement. And this attitude of, with the older children, having these reservations at the beginning is something that has been witnessed in other countries as well, because it's a big change for them. So basically, I mean, if we're going to have something to say, I mean, I say it's not, it's not the easiest thing to do. It needs, there's work behind it. It needs work, and we always think we should be doing more. But I think that it can work, and maybe if it does, when you get it to work, it's worthwhile. But it works with. Then there's a lot of support. Like the teachers need a lot of support. So it's good to have this from everyone, from the parents, from their colleagues, from the head teachers, from ministries. They need materials to support them. They need buddies to get together with, even if it's to cry on each other's shoulder or just to moan. They need a group therapy thing. They need support, but they also need a lot of training. And they need training. And sometimes I find with new teachers that are trying to join the program, or that I was talking about earlier, that they want to join, they want to do it, and we're holding them back because we want to be sure. I mean, at the minimum, at least, the minimum is like they understand that concept, because it's dual focus, and you can't be, just doing English or just be. It has to be dual focus, and that's the key. And if you understand that, then it's easier for the teacher, because that's the first thing to understand. It takes a while. So, overall conclusions is that it seems to be accepted by students. The students really, and now as we're getting younger, of course, younger ones is very easy. And I said the older ones, need to be, they need to buy into it, but then it becomes part of the school. It seems to be accepted by teachers, it's accepted by administrators and policy, and systematic CLIL sessions bring results. So you have to have, if you want results, you have to have systematic CLIL session. You have to have at least a minimum of contact hours. We find, you have to have, reasonable contact with the language. You can't just do a unit here. Oh, we did Australia in CLIL. The rest of the year is in Greek. Then you don't have the results. It has to be systematic. So they have a lot of contact time and build on the language. And of course, the younger you start and they continue, then it becomes easier and you can do more things with them because they have more language and it's easier for them. So we're thinking that when the younger ones grow, it's going to be much, much easier. We might even have to change the materials we have for the older ones. So, we just said that. So, and basically we found that it can work. We found that it can work with language teachers if they have training in the content subject, and it can work with content teachers if they have training in language teaching methodology and the competence in the language. So basically, you have to have these three. I think it's essential. So I don't know. Thank you very much for bearing with me and for throughout this session. And I think that that's it from me. And if you have any questions, I'd be very happy to